Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Justine Browning. I'm a writer and editor at Entertainment Weekly, and I'm so excited to welcome such an inspiring performer. I'm sure he'll have some great insights for you about his incredible rise. So please join me in welcoming Nico Santos.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
How are you guys? You good? Okay.
How about that screening? That was pretty amazing. I wanted to kick things off with a quote from you that I just found so impactful that I wanted to read, where you said, "As a Filipino and as a gay person, to be able to portray complex and real queer Asian characters is important to me. I've never seen myself on television or movies. I always thought when I got into this industry that I was going to have to hide all that and play down my Asianness and queerness." I would love to know at what point, that is deep, at what point did it become clear to you that not only would you not have to downplay those aspects of yourself, but that you would actually be celebrated for that?
Actually, when I booked Superstore, like the roles that I booked before Superstore were just small roles here and there, and they were kind of like just kind of throwaway roles, like nothing of consequence. Paul Blart, Mall Cop 2. Kevin James's seminal classic. I don't know if you've seen it. But just kind of like these funny roles where it really didn't matter who was playing that particular role. But when I booked Superstore, and the fact that they actually because that Mateo was originally written as a straight Latino guy. Yes, hello.
Straight Latino gangster.
Yeah, he was originally written as a straight Latino guy. In the pilot, the way it was written, actually none of the characters had any specific ethnicities attached to the characters except for Mateo, which was specified as a straight Latino, sort of like gangstery type guy. And then when I auditioned for it, I remember seeing the sides for Superstore for Mateo, and I was like, well, these are just things a shady queen would say. So I just kind of like adapted that and interpreted the material and put it through whatever filter I had, which was based on my experiences as a queer Asian person and working in retail already. So and so when they changed the role to sort of adapt it to me, I was like, oh, like this. There is sort of like space for me in this industry. I never thought that was going to be the case. And the fact that I continue to book and play roles that are both queer and Asian, I actually, I don't know. I mean, like, I actually really love that fact. Like, I don't, like, I've been asked before if I feel like I'm being typecast. I don't. I relish the fact that I get to play queer Asian parts because those parts were just not ever represented on screen. I never saw them, and if I did see a queer Asian person on screen, it was a very stereotypical, one-dimensional role. And the fact that I have now been able to play, between Mateo and Oliver in Crazy Rich Asians, and now I'm playing, I'm doing a play right now off Broadway. Another queer Asian part they're all very different from each other. The only common denominator is that they're both queer and they're Asian, but they have, different wants, different dreams, different flaws. I know I just really relish the fact that I'm able to do that and have a career at it. It's kind of unfathomable to me, like when I started. Yeah.
I would love to hear more about your early discussions with the creators, because for those out there who are thinking of maybe submitting to a role or auditioning for a role that they don't necessarily fit the bill for, that maybe they don't match the character breakdown, it seems that there is hope in that instance.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Ruben Fleischer, who is one of the executive producers of Superstore. He was there in the first audition, and after I had got cast, I remember him saying, he was just like, you walked in that room and you were kind of just like, this role is mine. And I think that's what, that's essentially that's what producers and casting directors want. They want actors to come in with bold choices and specific choices. Um, and especially if you're somebody like me who's completely different, like, listen, nobody hires me for the body or the face. I know that. That's not what I have to offer. So you have to rely on your strengths as an actor, and what I know after having done, years of stand-up comedy is that's what I have to offer. Is I know I'm a funny guy, so that's what I leaned on, and I'm starting finding the common thread between, yes, this character was written as, a straight Latino, but if you just sort of like go through the material and find the core of that character and like how I could sort of interpret that character through the lens that I have, I think is what really helped. Yeah.
But the idea that it was largely a colorblind casting.
Yeah.
Is that rare?
It's very rare because usually especially when Superstore started like 5 years ago, we're going to our 5th season. You know, that is 5 years ago, networks were really like the topic and the discussion around representation and diversity and inclusion has dramatically changed within the last 5 years. And 5 years ago, a lot of shows and networks were really still like ticking boxes. It's like, oh, they cast an Asian person not because they wanted an Asian person, it's because they needed an Asian person, and it was kind of like square peg round hole situation. With like, we're just gonna put these people. Like, we need a black guy, we need an Asian woman. There needs to be a gay guy because we need to have a diverse show. And the thing that I love about Superstore, it was really sort of like organically diverse. They casted the people that they wanted for the parts. We all happen to be just diverse people. And when you walk inside of a Superstore, you're not going to see 5 straight white guys working in a Superstore. They're all very different shades and shapes and sizes.
And because of that, I think what's come up so organically over the course of these 4 seasons is the fact that though this is lighthearted comedy and it's great escapism, you're tackling so many really pertinent issues. And one of them is immigration and Mateo being an undocumented immigrant.
Yeah, it's I remember when the showrunner Justin Spitzer, who created the show, told me that they were thinking about making Mateo undocumented, and I was like, oh my god, that's such a genius idea. I'm Filipino. I was born and raised in the Philippines. I moved to this country, I think I was like 16 when I moved to Oregon from Manila. It's a great move. It's a lot of fun. But drawing from my experience as a Filipino immigrant, like everybody in my family knew somebody who was undocumented. My parents were undocumented at some point in their lives. And I think if you are an immigrant, period, like that is part of like the story. Like you will know somebody through somebody in your family who came to this country, like not necessarily through two different means. And when they decided to sort of include that as part of his story, I thought it was a real amazing idea because it really just sort of adds another layer and dimension to Mateo. At first he started out as just this like bitchy, like sassy employee, but then you sort of get to know him and that part of his life, and you understand sort of like why he is the way he is and why the stakes for him are so much higher than the rest of the characters in the show, and why he's so competitive and because he is yearning for a better life. He needs to land on top because it would be a very different outcome if he didn't.
And it also plays a great deal into his relationship with Jeff. And
I know. Well, right now they're not together, but who knows? Maybe they'll get back together.
But that being something that comes up in their relationship, it's of course something that's happening in this country.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, and it's the only story of its kind on network television.
You forget sometimes, when you're a working actor or whether you're just starting out or, you're somebody who's regularly working, that feeling of I'm never going to work again is always present. So sometimes when I'm like, I'm fortunate enough to be a working actor right now, but like I forget that sometimes the impact I get so focused on looking for work and looking for the next thing that I forget about the impact of the work itself. And I remember somebody came up to me. I was at a mall in Los Angeles, and somebody came up to me and he was like, I watch a show. I just have to tell you that my partner is undocumented, and like everything that you go through your show is like, it hits so close to home. Like, we can't do this, he can't do this. Like, he just went through this laundry list of like things that him and his partner can't do because of their situation, and now they have like. Uh, they have like a even like a plan B of what will happen if his partner gets like deported or something like that, and it's I never really realized like the representation is power. It's giving a voice to those that hasn't been seen. So I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling. It's just like I just remember that moment. I was just like, oh wow, okay. Like, we're not just doing like a half-hour sitcom. Like, people are actually really like touched and affected by the show. So.
Of course, like the Nielsen report that came out last year said that Americans spend, I think, 11 hours a day with some form of media. And if you think about the fact that if you're not seeing yourself represented in that context, you're not seeing stories that you go through mirrored back to you. Imagine something you went through.
Yeah, I grew up in the Philippines, and they have their own sort of like entertainment industry in the Philippines, but obviously the gold standard is Hollywood, and that's what we all aspire to. And I remember just growing up watching American movies and American television shows. I thought that when I moved to Gresham, Oregon, that my high school was going to be like Beverly Hills 90210.
Was it?
It was not. I'll tell you that much. I thought it was like, where's Brenda? And I moved to Gresham, Oregon. It was just like a regular podunk high school. People here from Oregon? Anybody here from Oregon? Corvallis. Okay, yeah. You know what I'm talking about. And I remember just seeing the high school. I was just like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was either going to be Beverly Hills 90210 or Stand and Deliver. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. I was like, see, they're going to be one of those two. And it was just like a run-of-the-mill, regular, good old American high school. But I remember being so excited that I had a locker. I was like, ooh, I saw these in the movies. Let me just put my books in here and I get ready for it. But I never, growing up watching all this American programming, I never saw Asian people at all or gay people, so... the fact, like I said, like the fact that I have a career, like where those things, where the fullness of my identity is celebrated. Like, I'm queer, I'm Asian, I'm also like femme leaning. Like, for the longest time, in television programming, with the exception of Jack. Like, Jack was from Will and Grace was very much criticized as like, oh, that's like a real femme character. But a lot of the gay characters you saw during the '90s were like. Really palatable representations of what it means to be a homosexual. It was like white, rich, masculine, very much like this is what a gay guy is supposed to be. But the fact that somebody like me who is like, yeah, I'm femme leaning, I'm very obviously queer. I'm also Filipino, and I'm playing roles that are like, where all of those things are so integrated into the role. I never thought that would be possible at all. I'm paying my bills doing that is like mind-boggling to me. So,
segueing into, of course, I have to mention your role in Crazy Rich Asians, and I'm sure that most people know this by now, but that was the first American film to feature a predominantly Asian cast since Joy Luck Club.
Since Joy Luck Club,
which was 93, right? So
yeah, it's been 25 years. It's the first studio. Movie to feature an all-Asian cast. Also, it's like in a modern setting. Like, nobody was doing kung fu in that movie. We weren't fleeing villages. You know what I mean? Like, they were all like, like successful. They were all living their best lives. I mean, really, really good lives. So that was the first time that's ever happened. But I think the reason the movie that was so successful is not because I mean, obviously having an all Asian cast had a lot to do with it. People were yearning for that sort of
Yeah, you felt
representation.
that need
Yes,
going
and
in.
people really
Yeah.
came to the movie screens and and watched the movie. But the story is so universal. You know, everybody can relate to wanting love and wanting to keep love and what it's like to have a mingling mother-in-law, possible mother-in-law. I mean, those are just universal themes. So, plus it's been a while since we had like a really great rom-com. I think people were just ready for it.
I think people
So
were yearning for it on several levels.
yeah.
And I'm curious, when you were in production on that, I think not only did it, of course, change the trajectory of your career, but you traveled to Asia. I believe it had been 2 decades since you.
Yeah.
So what was it like?
So
Yeah.
yeah, we filmed the movie in Malaysia and Singapore. I spent 6 weeks in Malaysia and Singapore, but I had 2 weeks in between my scenes. So essentially, it was just like a paid vacation for me. I was like, "You want me to film a major movie in Asia, and you're paying for the trip? Sure, let me do it. Where do I sign?" But I had 2 weeks between my scenes, and so I went back to the Philippines for the first time in 20 years, 21 years actually. I basically hadn't been back since I left. So it was a real I don't know. It was such a surreal moment. The old grocery store where we used to like shop as children is now like a huge fancy hotel. The old movie theater that I used to go to as a kid, watching all these American movies, it's now like a huge shopping center with like a Cartier and Louis Vuitton. I'm like, oh my god, it's Crazy Rich Asians. I was like, it's a really surreal moment because everything was so different, but everything had also stayed the same. But yeah, it was kind of very strange walking around, just sort of like I've made a completely different life for myself halfway around the globe. Yeah.
There was something that happened in Hollywood when Bridesmaids came out, and it was called the Bridesmaids Effect.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these films that had been in drawers or kind of shelved that featured a predominantly female cast and written by women were starting to be made. We saw there was a shift. I'm
Yeah.
curious, from your vantage point, has there been a Crazy Rich Asians effect?
Oh,
have you noticed
yeah.
that?
Networks. I mean, like. This pilot season, there were so many projects that involved Asian writers and Asian casts that were greenlit by different networks. In fact, Kevin Kwan, who wrote Crazy Rich Asians, has a pilot on CBS right now called The Emperor of Malibu. The casting directors for that project also were the casting directors of Superstore, and they had the hardest time trying to cast the pilot because all the Asian actors were working. First of all, it's a smaller pool, right? It is a smaller pool, but it was such a great it was sort of like disheartening and wonderful to hear at the same time that like they could not find anybody to fill the parts because like either like they were all like working as series regulars in different shows or they were already cast in another pilot. And these were projects definitely before Crazy Rich Asians would not have happened. I know that there's a pilot on ABC that's written by that features also like an all Asian cast, and they used Crazy Rich Asians in the to pitch it in the room. Now that sort of the industry has a point of reference, and they realize that the power of that representation, it worked. So write all your Asian scripts now. That's what I'm saying. Get it greenlit. Yeah.
Do you notice a specific shift in terms of what your approach to read for the scripts that are coming your way versus when you first started at this point?
Oh yeah. I mean, like there were people who would not take meetings with me, would not take meetings with me at all. And then after the movie came out, I was like, "So what is Nico up to?" Blah 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 blah. I'm like, "Bitch, now you got time, okay." There was definitely a shift, but it is great to sort of now to get more stuff across across your desk and be considered for other stuff, because like I said before, like the stuff that was just coming my way was kind of just like, do you want to play waiter number 2? And there's nothing. Listen, I paid my bills for a long time playing those roles, but like, when you sort of like get to a next level, and you're still being asked to like, I at that point, like Superstore had been like on for like 3 seasons. I was like, why am I still getting asked to read for waiter number 2? I'm like a series regular on a network show that's on for like 3 seasons already. So there is still, I think, like, 2 steps forward, 1 steps back type of situation there, where people still don't value you as much as. But you got to know your worth in this industry, because people will try and just, like, well, you'll do this for free. And like, no, I won't do that for free. Y'all got to pay me. Okay, my rent doesn't pay itself. So, but yeah, you can, especially if you're a marginalized person, you have to really know your worth and stay strong in your ground with when it comes to stuff like that, because people will take advantage of you. I remember sort of like talking to my different actor friends who are women, who are in different shows, and sort of like them telling stories about how when they found out that they were getting paid so much less than their male counterparts. I'm like, but you have the same part, basically. You're in the same, category of size of role, and those things that you hear, the whole pay inequality is a real thing, and it's different for women, it's different for people of color, it's different for women who are women of color, and for queer people. So you just have to be very aware of that.
I'm sure many people here want to know, when you are at that point where you're weirdo 2 or 3, you're taking these bit parts, what are the steps to take to protect yourself early on when you feel that maybe you don't have as much power yet in your career?
I know that's the hard part. I've definitely done jobs, or kind of just like I just have to go through and suck it up, and it's know when to pick your battles, especially when you're starting out. You don't want to, there's all those sorts, like, you don't want to piss people off, whatever. I remember I did 2 Broke Girls. I did a guest star for 2 Broke Girls, and I was playing like a really sassy retail manager. And there was a line in the audition where I had to say, as much as I love a caftan and underage boys, we're not in Morocco. Yeah, I'm like, I was really just like, did we? Are you implying that I'm a pedophile? Is this really like what the scene is about? I mean, like, it's it's a multicam comedy. It's like, do we really have to go there and sort of imply that gay people are pedophiles? And I emailed, at the time I had just done the CBS Diversity Showcase, so I had emailed the manager of diversity at CBS and was like, hey girl, I'm auditioning for a CBS show, and there's this line, I'ma do it, but I'm just letting you know, I don't want you to do anything, I'm just kind of venting, but it just kind of sucks that this is even here. And then she emails me back, she's like, I forwarded your email to the vice president of diversity, who then forwarded that email to the president of programming and Nina Tassler, who at the time was the head of CBS. And I was like, what did you do? I don't want to be blacklisted from the industry. I just was letting you know, as somebody, on the other side, behind the camera, that this is happening. I'm just wanting to make it aware, but I want a job. I booked the part. I don't know if I booked the part because I raised the fuss, or or they actually liked my performance. But yeah, I mean, like, I was able to, in that regard, I was able to like sort of like voice my opinion. But I don't know, like, if I hadn't gone through the CBS diversity showcase at the time, and I didn't have that relationship with CBS, I really don't know if I would have said anything, because a lot of, I mean, it's such, when you book a part, any part, when you're just starting out, and it's such a victory, and you don't want to, like, downplay that victory, and you're just trying to, the goal is to be a working actor, so you're kind of just like, I guess I'm just gonna do this, right? But I thankfully I had that relationship with CBS that I was able to sort of like nudge the envelope a little bit. Yeah.
And that's why there's diversity programs in place, I think, right? So that
Yeah.
this type of sensitivity can
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah,
At
exactly.
major networks. And
Yeah.
that diversity showcase at CBS, I understand. Can you talk a bit about putting that together, because it definitely impacted the work that you ended up.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, my background's in stand-up, and
tell.
I I started out I actually started out as an actor. I did a lot of theater in high school. I majored in acting. I started as an acting major in college. But my professor in college, my acting professor in college, told me that I wasn't never gonna make it. You may love the art, but the art doesn't love you. Was the quote that he loved to say in class. I know,
For
right?
those of you who've ever heard that,
Yeah. That's the thing. And also, FYI, the college called me like a few years ago. I was like, we'd love to get a quote from you to put on the website about how your education shaped your success. I'm like, it did not. Click. Talk to
That was your
someone
pretty woman
else.
moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I was really discouraged by my college experience, and I had an interest in design, so I then switched to costume design, and I worked as a dresser for the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for a few seasons. And it wasn't until I worked there as a dresser, one of the actors was like, you should be a comedian. I was like, oh, I guess I'll try that. So that's kind of how I got back into acting. You know, when I moved to LA after doing stand up for so long in San Francisco, I had no intentions of acting because I still had my acting teacher's voice in the back of my head that is like, you're not an actor, that's not who you are. And I had established my career as a comedian already, and I felt, you know, I felt confident as a comedian. And then when I got to LA, you know, I was getting some comedy gigs, and my manager at the time then told me to audition for the CBS Diversity Showcase, and that's kind of like where casting directors saw me, and I was able to book like acting jobs through that. I got my agent through that, and then I started booking acting jobs, and I was like, well, this is paying better. You know, like a 2-line co-star right now is paying better than a weekend in Sacramento, so at a comedy club. So let me just see if I can continue doing the acting thing, and I've been really fortunate that just started booking more work. Yeah.
Did you send that instructor some screeners? Oh, this is what I'm up to.
I heard he's retired now, thank God.
Maybe this is why.
Yeah, that he's not teaching anymore. But that's the thing. It's just like I you know, why would you discourage anybody from pursuing their dreams? And also, like, in this industry, is you know, like, talent accounts for but a small percentage of why somebody makes it in the industry. Like, you know, like determination counts for more, I think. Like, you really have to, you are just beaten up every day, told no every day, told that you're inadequate every single day. You know, you go to like 5-6 auditions a day. And I remember, you know, after the CBS Diversity Showcase, before that, I'd only gone through maybe like 3 or 4 auditions in the past 4 years in Los Angeles. And after the showcase, because I was seen by all these people in the industry, I was going on 5 to 6 auditions a day. And like I said, like, I didn't have any formal training as an actor. So really, it was rough, and it was bad. I was like, I had a holding deal, a talent holding deal with CBS at the time. So they were just sending me on everything. And I would just be horrible at these auditions because they would send me to, like, here, audition for like NCIS New Orleans. And I'm like, that's not what I do. You know, that's like, I don't understand how I would play, you know. Okay. And I remember, like, the VP of casting for CBS give me a call and screaming at me and just like, you have a talent deal with this network. How dare you embarrass us? Like, you better be you better be prepared the next time you walk into an audition, blah, 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 blah. And I, you know, like, part of it was true. I was not prepared because I was just like going on like 6 auditions a day. It's a lot. I don't know if you've, you know, for those of you on the grind, that's a lot. And like in LA, you're like, I have to go to Sony, and then I have to go to Universal, and then like you're driving like everywhere, and it's you barely have time to look at your sides. Yeah, it was crazy. It really, I was thrown into the lions then, and it really, and also auditioning is such a different skill than acting. It is a whole. So I encourage for those of you who are just starting out, I would encourage you to take an auditioning class because it is such a different skill. It took me a while to sort of really learn how to be comfortable at an audition. Because before auditioning for television and movies, like the only audition experience I had was like auditioning for like plays in college, and like they're not gonna freaking ask you to do a monologue from Sam Shepard or whatever. You just have to read the sides, and sometimes it's just like the sides is like
Did you do that on the NCIS New Orleans audition?
Oh my God, the NCIS no, not to imagine. I'm just gonna sing 16 bars. That's fine, right? Right? Yes. B flat, thank you. They did not ask me to do that. But yeah, it was all this, it was all these different body stuff. I think I was reading for the part of the coroner, and I was just like, oh God, And it's like, it's having to tackle the different, I think too, it's just like discovering what your medium is as an actor is great. Yes, when I went to college, that program was very classically based, and as much as I loved watching Shakespeare and Chekhov, I knew a year into it I was like, I'm not comfortable, or that's not really the type of work that I want to do. And that's the thing about being an actor in LA. There are such a wide variety of shows that you can do, and the medium that I want to do once I discovered stand-up comedy is that I want to do comedy acting for TV and film. That's what I want to do. I have no interest in being the next Meryl Streep. You know what I mean? There are actors out there who are amazing, talented actors who really transform themselves and really lose themselves in the part, and I respect that. But I love doing comedy, and I love doing comedy acting. And and if I have a very long career doing just that, I would be very, very happy. But there is a wide variety of genres in the industry that you can choose from, and often in the industry, like they know who to call. Like we're doing a period piece, then they call this person. We're doing a comedy, we call this person. We're doing whatever, a cop show, we call this person. So, especially when you're first starting out too, because the smaller roles, like. Like, oh, we need like a fast talking, like wise guy, like, like it's all about being able to play to those types, right? So knowing your genre it was really helpful. Like once I was able to sort of discover that, like, oh, they want like, like the sort of like the sassy sort of like bitchy guy. I'm like, yeah, I can play that, Or you want like a sweet gay guy? Yeah, I can play that. But, I mean, pays for my bill, so I'm like very happy doing it. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much. I could talk to you so much longer, but unfortunately we're out of time.
We're out of time. Boo.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.